Committee is November 25th. It's the Policy Advisory Committee. We'll start with attendance. Go around and say who's here. Andrew, we'll start with you.
Andrew Hennius, attorney for the committee.
Rob Mezzanotte, assistant superintendent.
Kenny Duba, superintendent.
Jen Lima, school committee member.
Rachel Santa, Director of Student Services.
Michelle Hume, Transportation Supervisor.
Citizens' comments, but it does not look like we have anybody here for citizens' comments. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting?
I move to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Because we have a time constraint, I'll move up, I'll skip item number 4 for right now, if that's okay.
Lydia's here.
And then, oh, hang on, yeah. Come on. Do you wanna sit at the table, or do you wanna sit?
You tell me where I should, I'll go where.
You tell.
You can have a seat right up here, it's fine.
I'll sit right up here.
So we're gonna start with transportation first, so Ken, do you wanna go ahead?
Yes, so we've been updating the EA Student Transportation Services policy. So Michelle and I made additional updates from where we left off last time. And I believe, just from what we were working on earlier, well, why don't we go to page 3 of the policy? I know we had discussions around pre-K and where that should be in here, and I just was concerned listing pre-K under eligibility along with kindergarten through high school, because preschool transportation is not provided. What I did create a statement under accessibility, eligibility accommodations. So we had the paragraph in there for temporary disability, and now there's an additional paragraph that says students with disabilities who have an individual education program, and in parentheses IEP, who also need transportation services based on their disability, may qualify for special transportation services, and it should be, actually there's a typo, may qualify for special transportation services through the IEP team decision-making process. I think would be the best way to word that part. I'm gonna fix that right through the.
So I know we talked the last time about how the only way that preschool students get transportation is because of an IEP.
Yeah, and that was that next line there. This includes transportation services for preschool students who have an IEP.
So it doesn't actually say preschool students do not get transportation services unless they have an IEP.
So we can add something.
I think we should,
Yeah.
just to be like completely clear that that's the only way.
I'm wondering then if we, so I just wanna kind of look at, so I would
Get rid of that sentence. you
delete the
highlighted.
first sentence
Mhm.
and then just,
Yep,
Yeah.
better.
okay. And then the next, so then under bus stops, we fixed the accessibility accommodation piece there. So that's in there about temporary disability regarding change in bus stops. And we don't need to add anything in there regarding students with an IEP, because all that will be determined through the eligibility, and students that get transportation services through an IEP, that also determines their bus stop and where all that is. We don't need anything in addition for them in the policy.
Do you think we should add that last sentence, preschool students are not eligible for transportation services unless something more like has been deemed to be appropriate by the IEP team, or deemed to be eligible by the IEP team? Maybe they'll kind
Sure.
of say it before.
Yeah.
I feel like you just be more,
Go back to,
just since you have a preschool with an IEP doesn't need that.
Oh, I
Right.
see what you're
True.
saying.
Do you know
You
what
would
I'm
have an IEP, but it might not be part of your IEP.
Exactly.
Yep.
Unless-
Okay.
I think we should just be a little bit
Yep, I agree.
clearer on that, yeah.
True.
by
Yep.
the IEPs. Okay.
we had talked about, defining the bus trip.
So that's in there. Michelle, where is that?
It is on page,
So
Did define
it's
that. I'm
under
trying to find it.
definitions on page,
oh, it's,
page 2.
oh, I have it on page 1,
Page 1.
under vehicles. It's the next.
So bus trip is defined as any time that the bus driver has a home to school route. In parentheses, it states between each school drop off, a school field trip, late bus and or athletic trip.
So that would be like just from beginning to end,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Anytime you put the key in the ignition.
Right, so from beginning, no one's on the bus, to end, no one's on the bus.
Mhm.
Where are we?
This doesn't
On the
cover
bus.
what I was wanting it to cover based on what we talked about last week, like, cause it's not the ignition, right? It's like, so, beginning to end, but there is an in-between, right? And that was my concern with wanting to define bus trip. Because to me, beginning to end is from the time you get in the bus, the driver
Mhm.
gets to the bus, to the time the driver gets out of the bus. That's
Mhm.
beginning to end in my mind. But there is in-betweens there
Mm.
where there should be checks.
Mhm.
School checks after drop off.
So maybe that's the way it should be defined versus trip.
So we added a definition for bus trips, you know what bus trip is, but where, just,
There was something
Where in
in
the
here that
documents?
said, it was, I think it was in the definition of when the checks for, like, children left behind are taking place, and it was after bus trips, and I wanted to know what the definition of a bus trip was. So it's not so much from the beginning to the end, it's after each, not school bus stop, but I just wanna make sure,
It's under bus driver, Jen.
is that where it is?
And it's also the bus driver's responsibility to conduct a thorough inspection of the bus after each trip.
Right.
I think that's it.
Yeah, and I was asking, like, can we define trip so that it wasn't like bus driver gets on the bus driver gets off the bus, to define that in between, like in between routes, right? But I don't think that this definition here covers what we're asking for in the bus driver definition.
or maybe I wonder if we just explain, clarify in this paragraph here. I'm just looking for the where it says additionally, it is the bus driver's responsibility to check the bus for safety issues and ensure it is in good working condition before each trip. Maybe we just clarify when we are, because you're saying like what happens in between the trips.
Right, it's the next sentence. It's also the bus driver's responsibility to conduct a thorough inspection of the bus after each trip to confirm that it's empty of students. And I would like it to be spelled out specifically when those checks are to occur. Cause it's not just start and end, it's
Mhm.
in between. It's when it leaves a school, it's when it's so, and that needs to be spelled out in
Mhm.
here so that there's no question around what a trip is. And if it's not by define, then maybe you don't have to define what a trip is.
And I also, when I read the definition for bus trip, I don't read it in the same way as saying that, and I think maybe it's just from what was just said here. Cause it's saying anytime the bus driver has a homeschool route, a school field trip, a late bus or athletic trip. Like, to me, that's anytime they're doing their route, excuse me, not that it's when they turn the bus on and turn the bus off, because then that's two different things. Like, I think when you're saying, okay, the bus is turned on, to when the bus is turned off, there are times when you're doing your routes and changing your routes, you're not turning your bus off.
Right.
So I think it just needs to be specific to each route that you're doing, and they have multiple routes during the day. Because a route going to Davisville Middle School is different than a route going to Fishing Cove. But they're not, from what was said earlier, turning their bus on to turning, like, I just want to clarify that. I think that's
And that's
Not
not
with
technically a trip, that's more your bus route,
your bus route.
opposed to a trip. When I think of trip, in my head, I think of the team being picked up. I think of, you know, going off
So
to.
then I think we should just not use that word
Yeah.
Yeah.
and just say
Yeah.
bus route, because
Mhm.
if that is, then that is confusing, like what we're saying. So if
Mhm.
you're, when you're, like, the word trip is in this, is in here, and you're thinking as when you're assigning field trips, but we're thinking, I'm just saying, I think like others are thinking like those are the routes. Like I look at it as, we're talking about checking the bus during every bus route. So every route they go on. So I'm the driver, I'm taking my bus, I do my route in the morning to do a high school run. Now I'm using the word run.
What happens if, sorry for being late, what happens if they do, is a route, would they consider a route, I leave wherever, I pick up students, I go to DMS. I leave DMS, I drive to Forest Park, I drive and pick up my Forest Park kids, and then I drop off Forest Park. In their brain, is that one route, or is that two routes?
It would be two routes. In their brain, it's probably one route if it's home to school and they're just going through. So, and then we've defined to them, you know, a route is after you stop at one school, you have to check the bus. And then once you drop off at Fishing Cove, you check the bus. And that's what they should do. But in their head, they're just getting their one assignment of their route. So in their head, they're thinking one thing,
Yeah,
but.
I'm trying to figure out how we differentiate between.
Do you know what I mean?
What,
Like, they.
legs, maybe legs of routes, sometimes we call them,
Or just every time you're going to a different school,
Mhm.
like,
change in school.
Students
Yeah.
disembark, like something, like it's something
I
about that,
like
like
that,
that's
yeah.
the goal, right, is like,
Mhm.
cause in my head, I hear them say it and it's like the morning route, the afternoon route, right? It's all one route in their brain, whether they're making multiple
Right.
stops at different schools with different kids. So I think that's what we're trying to differentiate, is that one piece, whatever we
Yes,
call it.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't
Should I
care.
jump in right?
Yeah, no,
Okay,
that's,
cool.
you jumped in right
So,
in.
so Andrew just went in and added some language, under bus driver. It says, starting with that additionally statement, additionally is the bus driver's responsibility to check the bus for safety issues and ensure it is in good working condition before each bus trip. It is also the bus driver's responsibility to conduct a thorough inspection of the bus after each trip and/or after any drop-off or pickup of a student or students at a school building to confirm that it is empty of students and free of any belongings left behind. Is that capturing what we're looking at here?
Almost, my only thing there would be what if they're on a field trip, right, cause then it's not a school building, like, you know what I mean,
Yep.
like, what
So,
if
Okay.
School building or
Destination.
destination or.
destination.
I'm telling you, my
Mhm.
disembarking word is good. Cause it's like whenever students are getting on, like a group of students are getting on or off.
Well, that's why I kept that, I'm
Yeah,
assuming you don't have
'cause-
to check every time if you drop off.
Yeah, it's
Dr.
not
Miller to
one,
stop
yeah,
and
you
go
don't
Right,
want
back.
it
right,
to make it
not-
sound like
not-
that.
yeah.
Or like, when the bus,
school
how do you
building or school
professionally say
function.
when the bus should be empty?
School
Like-
building or school-related
Yeah,
event.
or school function.
Or school event, but yeah, school
Like it's
function, yeah.
intended destination or something
Yeah,
like that.
so you get to Roger Williams Zoo, all the students get off, you need to check the bus.
Yep.
Like, that's what the goal is.
Yeah, you get to Cranston Stadium, there should be no kids left on the bus.
Yeah.
Right, right. Yep, school function kind of captures that, right? Okay.
Yep. I just said that.
No stowaways.
Okay.
I still think we need to take out the word trip or redefine it because it's not flowing.
I actually think we should define route and trip, or route, whatever we end up choosing, like we should define it under the definition piece if we haven't already.
Right, that's where we were.
Great, that's
So,
perfect.
but,
Yeah.
it's just
Oh, I
not-
see, for the trip definition.
right,
that's
because
what we're
bus
talking
trip,
about.
Michelle put in there as if it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it is a field trip, right?
Yeah.
But that's not how the word trip is being used under bus driver, it's being more in terms of their routes,
Routes.
so.
It's like sub-routes almost.
Legs on the trip, legs on the
Yeah, I don't hate legs either.
pieces of railroad, disembark.
I think we should stick with the word route, because you're
Route's good.
putting together your bus
That's-
routes, and the more we
Mhm.
change words and add, we're just
I
gonna
agree.
complicate
We
it
don't
more,
wanna confuse
so,
people.
yeah, confuse and,
Yeah,
so we want the definition for bus trip, right, as defining field trips.
Field trips. And late bus, so to speak.
Also, it says school route, a field trip, late bus, and or athletic trip.
So we could take out school route. because we've just defined it correctly.
Right. I would just keep it as,
But you think too, once we get to a place where we should show this to the drivers and literally say, what do you think that means? Like, don't tell them what we think it means, like literally ask them, what do we think that means? Cause I wanna make sure we're using,
The same the
Yeah, like-
terminology that they are.
yeah, that our interpretation of whatever we write is the same as their interpretation of whatever we write, cause it might not be.
Michelle, I'm just putting a space there for bus routes to the
Okay.
definition for that.
And then we're getting rid of trips?
No, no,
Oh, we're keeping that, but we're taking
clarifying.
out the school route
Mhm.
part. So, Michelle, you were saying like, you want like the,
I would take out,
Take that out.
Yep, any home to school or anything in there. As a bus trip would be defined as a school field trip, athletic trip, or lake bus.
Why don't you
That's
just
what's
fix
stupid.
it? You
Want
gotta
me to fix
fix
it?
this, yes, please.
So separate from the normal bus ride,
like she's saying like one would be called bus trip and one would be called bus route.
so
And
every
those are-
morning
that-
with.
And bus route's more like a designated, assigned,
Correct.
signed.
Daily home to
Daily home
school
to school
bus
trip,
routes.
route, yeah.
Like when we receive our trips, that's what it says, like field trips, it's trips, it's a
Trips.
form for trips.
It's separate from their actual route.
What are they
Or
called in
summer.
the summer, trips or routes?
In the summer, if they're
These are
doing a
called
route for any summer programs, it's a route, and if they're doing a field trip or taking the athletics, it's a
So
trip.
summer school runs are routes?
Our routes,
Yeah.
So
routes that we plan out, yes.
Yeah, they're all planned and they're
Okay.
given us an
Yep.
assignment of kids.
Okay,
That's
so
how I think of it, it's assigned,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pre-assigned.
pre-assigned with what kids you're picking up.
but there's not late bus routes? No,
We do them
Yeah.
daily, we
Yeah.
have late bus signups.
yeah, but then you make a route,
We make
don't
a
you?
route from that, but it's day to day, it's not like predetermined
That's
or
okay though.
pre-assigned, you know, we do it.
I think it should go with the routes then, because like I could, don't, and correct me if I'm wrong if this isn't the process, but like what my understanding is that students have until a certain time to sign up for the late bus, and then you or someone else magically looks at it and you say, okay, these kids live all over here, we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna drop them off,
Mhm.
and then you present that to your driver.
Correct, that's what we send to
It's a
them.
route, yeah.
Hmm.
That's not trip, right? Don't you think it's a route? No? I defer to you.
Yeah,
I'm just putting it out there.
Technically, it's a
Drivers
route, yeah, well, because it's considered a trip to them because it's kind of like,
Extra.
it's extra,
Okay.
so that's the way that
That's
they
fine.
think of it in their head as a
Yep.
trip. But you're right, it
Yeah,
is,
for them times.
it's kind of like both, right, a trip slash route.
So like in my
So-
mind, and I'm not a bus driver,
It's a
right,
route.
a route is something that has multiple stops, and a trip is going to one place. No?
No, cause there have been times they've gone on trips and they'll make a couple of stops on the way back in, if they might take, maybe go to URI, and then on the way back, they wanna stop at, I don't know, Casey Farm, I'm just using that as an
Right,
example of
right.
that,
Can I make
and
a
they've done that,
suggest-
actually.
Suggestion, I just reread through this everywhere we use trip. I think trip can come out of this policy. We're not talking about field trips. In the terms
Yeah.
of what we're saying, I think trip should just come out and put the word route, and that'll clarify a lot of what we're saying.
Mhm.
It doesn't belong there.
So that means late bus comes out.
From where bus trip is, right, late bus, yeah, cause late bus, we have a route that they're following.
No, but she's saying it's a trip.
Well,
So,
I.
It's
Sorry,
just-
I know we're being nuanced, but that's
No,
literally what you
so-
just said to
No,
us.
it's all right.
No,
but
no,
it's
I
just-
think, 'cause originally when this policy was written, the word trip was used. We asked for a definition of bus trip. I asked Michelle to define it. The way she defined it, she took it as a trip as if it was a field trip, right? But when we go back,
Just a coincidence.
I'm passing. So
Just Advil.
when we go back now and read this policy and read where it is in here,
Mhm.
it doesn't align to use the word trip. It really should be, we're talking about bus routes. We're talking about checking the bus after they do every single route. When we post
Could you
where
want them?
kids are going back and forth, we post it as bus routes, right?
Mhm.
After every time they are there, and I think I know where you're going
Yeah,
with that.
it's
Like,
okay, you can get
yes,
there and-
even after a field trip, they gotta check their
Yeah.
bus. So this is about language, right, of how we're writing it, we should define them as bus routes and field trips. I think that will clarify what we're talking about. So after every route, they should be checking their bus. After they do their field trips, they should be checking their bus. I think that might clarify if we just leave it at that. And
Correct.
Would field trips also include athletics?
yes.
Okay.
And late bus.
Yes.
That's what she's saying. I'm done. This isn't me. I'm just saying. Look at her. She's saying yes. Okay, so we will define it.
Okay.
I think we have a better understanding of the difference now. Maybe. Can I start resolving comments on this or no?
So Michelle has to leave at 5.
Yeah,
just
I
so
know.
you missed that.
I did know that, yes.
Okay.
So we'll go back. I meant like in life, like if we've gone, well, let's just keep going, I guess, but that's just. Why don't we just call it trip instead of field trip? Because then it would count, under the definition, we could write field trip, late bus, athletic trip, but like if you just call it a trip, you don't have to write those 3 things out every time. It's just a bus trip. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Instead of field trip. Whoever was, I think it was retyping that.
Like, we can define trip for purpose of this policy however we want to define it. Like, we can say trip
Yeah.
under definition
Yeah,
for purpose
that's what
of
we're
this policy, yeah.
But I was, then Ken was typing down lower, he
I'm
wrote
just
the word
trying to fix
field,
it
and I'm like,
every
just
time.
get,
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
just call it trip,
Yeah.
bus trip. Cause then that will, whatever we end up typing
Yeah.
under that will apply to all that. So if it's athletics or whatever, it doesn't matter.
I think it's fixed in all the spaces of the word trip is there.
Being that Michelle has to leave, were there other parts, Michelle, that you all wanted to talk through, didn't understand what we were doing, had massive concerns?
So we were just going through what I had said before you came in. We started off where we left off the last meeting,
Yeah,
with
we
what
want
we
you.
added
Yep.
and what we changed. So we talked about trip. We went back to trip. We went over eligibility and bus stops, clarify about preschool and students with disabilities and how that type of transportation is determined through the IEP process. And so then the next section that we worked on, if we kept maintenance there, fleet management, we added the word Kingstown School Department in front of vehicles, because it would be our school department vehicles that we're referencing in here. Is anything about the contractors' vehicles be part of the contract with the bus association? The environmental safety, we left as is. Safety drills, we added in twice a year, that's what the requirement is.
I just made a note so we can go back to that. I wrote, is this due to a law? If yes, we should reference it. No, right where you were with the 2 times a year. We should reference like pursuant to RI, whatever. I just made a note so we remember to go back and do it. Because I thought it was.
And then incident response plan, yes, we do have something. Communications system, that's just there saying the buses will be equipped. Weather and traffic alerts, incorporate a system, we do, I mean, we talk about like what that is, but we didn't detail it in here, but what happens if there is a snowstorm or something, we gotta change routes, school department, Michelle is going back and forth with either, police or fire or the highway department regarding there's a road closed or this happened, she communicates with the driver saying we need to reroute you. So sometimes that's happening like as they're going because we realize, okay, there's an incident, we have to reroute the bus. Or we find out in the morning that there's a road closed because of the storm, there's a tree down. And then communication, and the parent and guardian, we added just at the end of that sentence, parents and guardians will be notified of any delays, accidents, or changes in routes through our student information system and communication system by email, text, and phone.
Should we write or? Are you gonna do all 3 every time?
Email, text, and phone? Well,
I'm suggesting or.
Yeah, we could.
You
We
could, if you
try-
put
we
or,
definitely.
if you put or, you can do all three,
Yeah.
but if you
Yeah.
put and, you have to
We
do all
definitely
three.
try to, because we just
Yeah.
know that trying to get in touch and a message out, we try to get it. So
I'm just
it's
thinking like
all
one
through
tiny
these.
thing that we just need to call the parents and we speak to the parents, we don't then need to follow up with an email and a text. If it's like a one, like not massive, but like teeny tiny.
And then we didn't add or change anything in the other two, the student parent guardian feedback, transfers, student expectations and discipline, all that would come out of the policy. I just did put a comment up here because we're kind of going back and forth. The first sentence says maintaining student discipline on school buses and at school bus stops. I did put the comment like who's monitoring the school bus stops. I think we talked about it at the last meeting as well.
Did you see Laura's note?
Yeah, we gave Laura had homework.
No, where's Laura's note?
Laura's note is that the school bus stops is our responsibility.
Is
She didn't put it in here, she
it
sent
was
us
an
an
email,
email.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, it was an email.
I'll
So
forward it
it's
to you.
just knowing like, it is just like, if something happens, we're not there monitoring it, right? So if there's an incident, I'm just wondering if we should clarify that.
Yeah, I think we
because
definitely
we're
put
not-
language in.
That
around
sounds like
the-
a nice Andrew job.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like, I think we wanna be very precise in that
Very lawyery
language.
on that, yes.
Yeah, that feels very lawyery to me.
Excuse me, may I just say one thing?
Yeah.
So last year, we did have an incident at a bus stop, and the bus had not arrived. The students reported it to the bus driver, they reported it to myself, I reached out to the principal, and they said, well, that's at the bus stop, that's not our responsibility. So I just wanna make sure that we're all clear, that if it is our responsibility, that everybody understands that it's our responsibility.
That's what we're
Because
trying to
even though none of us are witnessing it, I still,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the question that we had at the last meeting, and it turns out that it may be our responsibility, so.
I'm writing down Andrew, we'll look at language.
Yep.
We'll propose language. Yes, we definitely want clarity on that for not only the drivers, but obviously the building folks.
In the next section, transportation to out-of-district school programs. We added in a few sentences there. Out-of-district transportation to special education programs is an individual education program team decision. If the IEP team decides that transportation is required, then it will be scheduled with the North Kingstown County School Department Transportation Department. NKSD may coordinate with the Rhode Island Department of Education statewide transportation program for these services. Rachel or Andrew, would you change anything that we put there?
Rachel, we had talked about this last time, I don't know if we ever landed it, about temporary disabilities and how, like, how we should write about that piece as far as like if somebody sprains their ankle or somebody.
Yeah, I saw some language in
Yeah.
there about that if it's a temporary disability, that we can provide that transportation. I think it's one of those exceptions that you just look at and review the case.
Yeah, okay,
I think that's fine. I thought it was fine the way it's written.
right, perfect.
Ken, I'm just
It
adding
was-
504.
It was
Thank you.
tight, but also broad enough that you have some choice there.
Okay.
Did you put 504?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, cause that's an accommodation, that makes sense.
Could be.
Could be. For a student, yeah.
Michelle, in your 1 minute over
That's
when
fine.
you're supposed to leave, is there anything that's not in here that you think policy-wise, and this is something you could just think about, like policy-wise that you think would be helpful? Like what we've found in other policies is that we've maybe been doing things in practice, but they are not in the policy, so maybe just think about that piece of it if it's policy related, like something that maybe we wanna add that isn't in here, that would be a thing that I would.
I can look at it, I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
explanatory what we have, this is for transportation, I can't think of anything, but I can
Okay.
certainly look into it.
Yeah, and you have to, not big, but just like, like, one time, like, a principal said, oh, we do this with this, and we were like, oh, that, we could put that in, like, that, we could tighten that up for you, so, just, it's more like kind of procedures that maybe should be in the policy, I guess, is what I'm thinking about. or areas that might not be covered. And if there's nothing, that's a good thing, but if there is something, we can add it.
And then on page 9, that last section, parent and guardian transportation, just make sure that was there from what we talked about last time. So parents and guardians will follow regulations set forth by the school, including traffic patterns and arrival and dismissal procedures for each North Kingstown school.
So, we're wondering if, well, the part that said about private roads, I'll have to go back and look, it just was rumbling around my mind, whether or not we should define that as private road, which includes your and/or driveway.
Yeah,
Do we drive on people's driveways?
we shouldn't, no.
We shouldn't.
No. Okay.
But I think that'll help when requests are put in or.
Yes, please.
Understood. Yep.
Correct.
Thank you.
So I'll put,
Thank you.
so that's on
Well, it was
page
kinda
4.
rumbling around my mind.
So we'll put school buses are not allowed to travel on private roads
Or
or
driveways. Yeah.
on residence driveways,
Mhm.
or in residence, in,
Yeah, cause it's really considered to be a
Residence
private also.
Mhm.
On.
On, I think.
Buses go on, yeah. It would be in property or, no, it'd still be on.
Is the gravel road likely? How would that fit there?
Right.
You're right near the camera, so no whispering. Just,
Yeah, we know.
I
I just didn't.
they can
So-
hear you better than we can
Yeah.
hear you, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Talk about a gravel road.
Gravel road, if it's a private road, for, let's say someone has, let's just say hypothetically that there's a child that lives on, a gravel road that requires an accessible bus. But let's say that maybe the private road isn't kept up, as in, it's not plowed,
Don't we say we don't
it's
go on
not
private roads?
sanded.
So there's a difference though. So this is where it gets, okay, on private roads, we do access them for minibuses though, we have to. So we will go down a private road on a minibus because students are entitled to curb to curb. So it's a big bus that will not access, so I guess we would have to define that, because we would pick up a student who's in a wheelchair at
yeah,
the end of
so-
their
If
driveway.
it's determined
on
by
a
the
private
IP team
road
that
or-
they require specialized transportation,
Correct.
but I think there needs to be something in here, but that private road has to be maintained.
Mhm.
Cause the
But how do we
expectation
have
has been that they go
but if we
down
don't-
and plow.
yeah, but if we don't have permission, or not that we don't have permission, but it's prohibited to drive a bus down a private road, wouldn't that be the same for the
And when they talk about
minibuses?
that, they talk about like large, like trucks,
Mhm.
big buses.
Okay,
We're not talking about
So it
typically
doesn't-
minibuses, I've
so it
never come across.
excludes minibus,
Correct.
even though that private road might not be plowed by the town, and then we have no way
It
of
has to be
accessing it
accessible.
during the
So
snowstorm.
That's the well, it has to be accessible, it has to be maintained so the bus can access
we
it,
should
so it's
add
all
a
about
line here
accessibility and
that-
special.
Yes,
yeah.
please,
Because otherwise, if it's not, we can't,
you can't
Have that
safely
bus go down
transport and can't go down the road.
so
Nor,
this should say
nor are we,
large school
nor are
buses,
we
not just
responsible
Right.
for plowing it to be able to go down the road,
Correct.
to pick them up on their private
Oh, I was,
road.
I'm doing it on the back end.
I was
too,
gonna say
Kevin.
on the back-
I'll
well,
stop,
yeah.
go ahead.
No,
So
you
that
go
does
for
that
it,
make
it's-
sense?
your
Yeah.
language maybe
Oh,
is
it
gonna
makes
be
perfect
better than what I'm.
sense.
So, I think that they each define
That's
each
why
other,
we're
like
kinda like,
big
do you wanna
buses
talk
and.
about that, is that something we should define here? I
Oh, we
feel like
absolutely should define it,
Mhm.
100%, it should be.
Where did that,
Yeah.
who would define curb to curb? Like,
Under
Curb
I-
is an IEP,
IEP.
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
we no longer say door to door.
yeah,
Because let's say you're in New York City, you live on the 17th
Yeah,
floor,
yeah,
when
yeah.
people put door to door, they expected someone to
Yeah.
go up the stairs, get their
Floors.
kid from their door and bring them down to the bus.
So what do you wanna call it,
So we
Rachel?
changed that language to
Curb
curb
to
to
curb.
curb. They're expected to bring them, to the bottom of their driveway or whatever,
But who is the onus on to, like,
Alright.
have the,
so it says curb to curb accommodation on an IEP means that a student with mobility limitations will be transported by school bus directly to the edge of their driveway, the curb for pickup or drop off,
Correct.
rather than having to walk to a designated bus stop. so it's edge of their driveway
Yeah, you would,
That's
we're at the
what-
bottom
yeah.
of their driveway.
defined.
And
Where's
that
that?
falls
Where are
under
you reading that?
specialized
I don't know, I found it on the
transportation.
internet.
Oh,
That's a definition.
should that go in our policy though?
No,
Under
cause there's
definition?
many, it's not just curb to curb, there's also certain types of harnesses that we put, they're all accommodations under an IEP, and I'd rather it just, my opinion would be it should stay there.
Got it.
I was just curious for my own understanding of what, like, other people define as curb to curb. Like, cause like, and what driveway isn't super duper inclusive either, because not everyone has a driveway, but that's a whole
Mhm.
different conversation. But that's what, at least, that it sounds like, to the line of their property
To the
is
line
what
of
the
their
vibe
property,
is sounding like.
yeah,
That's our,
exactly.
that's our legal responsibility
Yes.
within that accommodation.
Because that means we're not going down their private driveway,
Mhm.
right? And we also shouldn't be going down private roads unless it's required to get them to, for a student with mobility issues to get to school. But those roads have to be maintained.
And the town does not maintain those, so
No,
it
because
is,
they're
yeah,
private.
right.
Andrew's
And
added.
nor should it be the district's responsibility to plow it to get the car down there, or the van or the bus down there to go pick up that
And
person.
we wouldn't be able to plow on a private
Correct.
property,
No.
right?
I'm just,
No.
I just feel like it should be spelled out.
I'm trying to. I'm stuck.
There's
I'll
actually
get it.
language in the book that I purchased.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
That's great.
Regarding that,
Is it from LRP that one?
LRP.
Yeah, it's great.
Mhm.
Michelle,
Michelle.
if I wait,
Yeah, you gotta go.
Oh.
Bye, bye, Michelle.
Thank you.
Go give out your veggies.
Alright,
Thank you.
Thank you.
so many
have a
questions
nice
about this,
holiday,
I'm done.
everybody.
Thanks, Michelle.
Bye, thank you.
I wanna know, but I don't wanna know all at the same time. Somebody can tell me later.
So, I don't think that we're gonna resolve this policy today.
Well, so what I can
Sorry,
do is I
that's
can
why
go
she's
through and clean it up.
Yep.
And then check it against some of the like quote unquote model policies to see if we like missed anything
Yep.
that were in other ones
And
and then.
we went through everything.
Yeah, I think we're like, I can clean this up now, and
Okay.
then I'll go through and see if there's anything gaping that we had originally hoped to put in that we forgot about,
Yep.
or that I saw in other policies, and then I will bring back like a clean copy.
Like a clean copy.
Yeah, like
not
a clean
PDF.
copy, like this is what it is right now, and then we could just, have it go to the principals, and I'd like some bus driver feedback on it.
They,
So I
they
think
al-
that's the next step.
Michelle also just said that she purchased something from LRP, Andrew, about specifically to buses that she's gonna look at, cause there was just things about the private roads and that she's gonna look at it.
Okay,
What's LRP?
Legal resource publications,
they do a nice job. They have all different kinds
yeah,
of posts.
that's the
Yeah.
big legal conference.
Yeah, I think we
that
looked it
should go
up
to.
once for a different
did.
policy, yeah.
Yeah,
did.
they're
Yep.
good, cause she bought the one specifically for transportation,
Yeah,
so
that's great.
she's gonna take a look at that.
So, if we could plan on doing that, and then since Lydia came to discuss the other ones, I wanted to
Yeah, let's do that.
pivot to those. Lydia, you want to come?
To the table, you
To
tell
the
them.
table, Lydia.
This is she doesn't have to sit in the kiddie table, she gets to
Oh,
sit
yeah.
at the table like Thanksgiving.
I don't mind being a kid's
I like the
table.
kiddie table, it's more fun.
So, Rob, do you have a preference which one we talk about first?
No. Well,
Lydia, do you?
No.
No.
let's do the family engagement.
Okay. Do you wanna walk us through?
Sure. So this policy is for Title I families to to engage with the local education agencies, which is us. So it's basically just us creating language stipulating the conditions of those of that relationship and what we must meet as the LEA in regards to keeping parents and guardians up to date on a variety of things related to their educational services, related to options and programs that we offer. It includes updates on academic goals. It includes updates on things related to supports such as literacy supports, technology supports, options to offer family involvement, and ways to have their voice heard. So it's pretty all encompassing, and there's services that we offer, programs that we offer through our family learning center, or family liaison, that we work with as well, and it's just basically shaping up, language that, needs to be shaped up. I believe this was last updated, 7, 8 years ago-ish. So,
2017.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's kind of where we are there. Livy, do you wanna add anything?
Yeah, I mean, basically Title I requires that the district, and the schools, the district has a family engagement policy, and that the schools that have Title I programs also have, policies. And this is the district policy, and it spells out basically like what the law says we have to do and what we're doing. And, it needed some updates because of changes in terms of the approach to having, instead of just parent and family. And then some of the things that we referenced in there, we no longer, like it didn't have MTSS, and that's, because that wasn't, we weren't adopting that at the point of the last update. So this was originally written by, not me, but it needed some, I think, pretty basic, updates. I saw in the, there were some recommendations, Jen, that you made in terms of changing the language from, you know, Title I schools to schools that receive Title I funding. I think that's a shift of language that we've, I've been trying to urge folks to do at the school level in terms of talking about Title I teachers. They're not Title I teachers, they're interventionists
Right.
that are paid by Title I. But to have this document mimic that, I think is appropriate, so I would agree with those.
I get yelled at by my daughter all the time for that, so I'm trying to
Yeah,
take
yeah.
it out of her.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. It does. It makes sense.
This was reviewed last year by the Fishing Cove and Quidnesset, like parent SIP teams and parent teacher groups and so forth. So it's been looked at, and some of the tweaks reflect that. They made more tweaks on their school level, that because that's more specific to what they are doing in their building.
I do notice that the policy specifically states Quidnesset as the school where the, family center should be located, and
Yeah.
I just wonder if we should not, like, so we try to not name programs in specific places in a policy, cause things may change, and then you gotta go back to the policy in order for it to change. And it should just say that this includes maintaining a family center and related staff in designated Title I schools. Not targeted schools, but designated Title I schools.
I mean,
We know we have a targeted school.
designated, Title I school-wide school, so.
School-wide program, a
School-wide
Title
program,
I
it's just,
school-wide,
right.
that way we know that that's speaking specifically to a school that is
School-wide.
school-wide Title I, receiving Title I funding versus
Yeah.
a school that's a targeted school.
That
And
makes
that way it's
sense.
not specifically being
That
Is
named.
makes
that part of the law?
Is that only is Quidnesset the
It's
only?
only school-wide,
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
I think just by reading the policy, you need to know that that program's at Quidnesset, whether you say it or not.
Mhm.
So if you go with the school-wide,
Yeah, no, I think that's appropriate.
At a
School-wide Title I.
school-wide, a Title I, or school-wide,
So if, let's say, Stony Lane became a school,
Yep.
and then the family center would shift over there.
but you don't just have one, right?
We do just have.
No, you could have more than one.
You could.
I mean,
A
theoretically,
district-
A district
A district
could have
could,
more
and
than
then
one.
a
each one would
district
need a
could,
family
it just
center.
would have
Yeah,
to do with
so-
how the resources are being used.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
There's nothing that saying like you can only have one.
No, but I think we're just
but
saying,
you-
like, if
yeah.
this policy, right, so if we change the wording on number 3 to say, the district will provide space in its Title I school for implementation of parent, guardian, and family engagement activities. This includes maintaining a family center and related staff in, Title I school-wide, in any school that is a Title I, that has a Title I school-wide program.
Right, and then that
Then
language
if
could
we
be
have 2
replicated.
schools, then you need to have a
Right.
family center in both schools.
And then that would be replicated down in, bullet, in number C, where it says that Quidnesset utilized the family center, family liaison.
I guess
at
that was
the
my question,
school-wide
you'd have to have
school.
two? You'd have to have two? A family center at every single one?
No, you're not required to have a
it's-
family center at all,
So this is just us,
correct?
so we don't, so we can write it, how?
yeah, we can, my only concern is that if I'm a parent reading this, that I know where I can access the services.
But that's not policy, that's like that doesn't have to be in the policy, does it?
Doesn't have to be, but
But we're trying to address how we meet the requirements of the
through having
law.
that family center.
And that's one way
Okay.
that we address that. But then the reason it's at the school, it needs to be at the school-wide, because it can, at a school-wide program, it can be accessed by anybody at the school. Which you're not gonna have a family center that only some families are allowed to access.
You could even just put a footnote after the family center, and, for more specific information, please reach out to whatever the department is, the email, so if I'm a parent, I wanna say, hey, where's the family center, oh, it's in Quinnesset.
Or we can just
But
leave it and
the
then they
family
adjust it.
center at Quinnesset is really designed to support just Quinnesset.
Right.
Okay.
Cause that's the school,
Cause that's
the full school.
the school-wide school,
Yep.
correct, like,
Just leave it. Your point's valid, Ken, but
I know,
they
and
can
I'm-
just come back and change it if
well,
they
right, I'm
move
just
it.
noticing it's throughout the document.
Just keep it, yeah. It's a valid point though,
it is
but also no.
Okay, so we're not gonna,
No, it's throughout the document that Knesset is written.
well, I mean,
so-
I think in a lot of ways, if the school, if things changed, we would wanna look at how the family engagement, the parent and family engagement policy would change along with it. So I think it probably would be appropriate to look at the document as a whole if
There was a shift.
if there was a shift, we'd have to relook at it.
If there was a
again.
shift,
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's not, would be appropriate to look at it again.
So I had noticed in the part that talks about making sure that the materials are available in the languages, that are necessary. One of the other policies that I had looked up, because I gotta be honest, like, this policy is a little hard. If I was a
It's
parent
heavy.
and I was looking at this, I would have a really hard time digesting it, like, to understand, like, if this is designed to engage parents,
It's not.
It's not.
That's why, I mean, that's why the school level one is really much more, and actually, at the Quid PTO meeting last week, we, went over, we had our Title I meeting attached to it, and one of the things that we did was talk about doing the Quid for parent and family engagement to make it more like almost like a handbook, but make it much more, user-friendly, and I had a parent got really jazzed about it. He actually sent me a draft this afternoon. So that's the goal, I mean, is to have parents involved in that process.
Right, exactly, but like, you can't have a district level policy and separate school level policies, like, they have to be the same, so.
But the RIDE does stipulate that they, in the law, that they,
But the
There's
school.
a difference between a handbook and a policy.
Yeah,
Right.
like
But-
you
but
have the district policy, right?
and
Title I
then the
district
school
policy.
level one
The
talks
school
about
has
how
a-
we meet the obligations.
Right, but it's not a
of
school
District one.
committee policy though.
It's not a school committee
Right,
policy.
it's a procedure.
It's a procedure or a
But the
handbook.
language in the RIDE requirement language is policy, that's the reason I talk about it that way.
Right, but like, anything at the school level is not policy, it's handbook or procedure.
Can you read,
I guess,
do you have it in front of you? You look like you're
So
looking at
it's-
something.
Yeah, so each school served under this part must jointly develop with and distribute to parents, family, and members of participating children a written parent and family engagement policy agreed upon by parents that must describe the means for carrying out the requirements of subsection C through F, yada, yada, yada. This is separate from the above where the LEA is required to have their own
right,
policy.
I guess my point
I
is,
think they're
we,
using policy intertwined
Yeah, they were-
versus
Oh,
like
they-
leasing policy and how they are saying they
Yeah.
have policy.
we can take that family-friendly one and build it up into our policy and still meet the right requirements and make this policy much more digestible.
Yes, except the ways in which each school, because we have a targeted and a school-wide school, the way we meet those obligations, while very similar, there are some key differences.
There will be differences that can be implemented in
Right.
the procedure level, but this policy can be broken down.
I totally agree. It
Yeah.
could be, this I think matches a lot of the way that a lot of the district policies look, which is kind of heavier. And that's one of the reasons why previously the lowercase p policy that the schools have looked more like this. And that's why we're shifting to something that matches more what the guidance that, like the example that RIDE had us looking at a thing recently, was a school-based policy, and it has like a calendar in there.
Yep.
You know, which again, you wouldn't have a calendar in one that was district level, but this was a school level one. And, and we all agreed in our conversations at the school, like at Quid, and, you know, that it makes sense to make this. I said, well, do you think parents would look at this if we made it? And they said, they might, you know, and it's and they felt like it was worth kind of taking the time to make it more digest it a little bit.
I think what I'm hearing, so you're
So-
both right, but what I hear you saying, Jen, is that there cannot be something in there that is like policy-y. Like they have to be friends. Like it can't contradict each
Oh,
other.
and they're totally
And so-
do match, so if we
Yeah.
change right now, but I hear what you're saying, so
My
if we
suggestion
change the
is-
one, we have to change the other, so they mimic each other
Right,
more.
so my suggestion is, like, I took what you said, right, and then I took 2 others, and my suggestion is we look at those 3 and we modify our policy so that it can be the parent of whatever they're trying to implement at the schools. So like you're saying, like, if you all decide that you wanna put in a calendar, right, like, each school shall implement a calendar, right, like, kind of build it up.
backwards.
Go backwards, right, exactly, because this is not,
Well, the other 2 you looked at, those are ours?
no,
Oh,
and
those are outside?
Those are outside.
Okay.
And I took the one that Lydia is using as a model, right? And so I put them all in the draft folder. So that's my recommendation. And it all the same things are in here. It just is much more easier to.
And RIDE provides a checklist that they want to see the policy
Yep.
hit talk about all these things.
Yep.
So,
The little P
I-
policy or the big P policy?
both.
And you have that checklist?
Yes.
Does our thing meet it?
But we can make it
Yeah,
more.
I understand.
Yeah.
So I just wanna make sure, so what I'm hearing here is we wanna kind of work backwards.
Yes.
For more of a, we'll call it user-friendly, approachable policy, not real policy, but building level,
Handbook, yeah.
right? Building level language, and we wanna work off that to revamp this?
Right, whatever they wanna implement at the building level, right, we'll take that and we'll build our policy as the umbrella.
Can I request that we update this current one so it's accurate, and then I can work with the PTOs and the SIP teams to redesign for over the course of the year, so that we're not sitting on an inaccurate thing until that, is that okay?
Yeah, I guess
Because until the other ones are redone too, they mirror each other very, very nicely right now.
what would be something, Lydia, that you would that you're gonna plan on putting in the other one that's not in this right now?
Honestly, it's more the big changes that in the school ones is that we are looking to do is just have a lot less words, more pictures, and have the layout changed. I mean, it's some basic visuals and do what we currently have, which is have some specific things. So for example, at Fishing Cove, we have a Title I meeting with participating families, not the whole, it doesn't happen as part of another thing that's open to the whole school, it's only, and then we do, a parent engagement activity that's facilitated by the teacher paid through Title I. That's held in the spring. So some of the activities are different. And then of course, Quid has the family center to facilitate greater activity. But do both policies have like encouraging families to be involved with the school improvement team and things like that? And reiterate their right to know about qualifications and be involved in the curriculum and all that. Yes, both of there's a lot that is mirrored. But there are some differences as well. And I think
So
in
can I ask a
the evolution
clarifying
of the
question?
project, it will be more specific, so that like the policy on Quid will have the contact information for Quid clerk and family liaison and various people, while the one at Fishing Cove will have Fishing Cove's people.
Isn't the purpose, thank you for explaining.
Yeah.
Isn't the purpose of this policy which is the LEA policy, and it's from a model policy from the state. Basically, we have to put this in place saying that we, as a school department, are going to make sure that we are following through Title I, the federal legislation, because we receive Title I funds, that we are going to have family engagement activities. And families are going to be engaged with the school department in specific ways, which is stated in this policy. That's just there to say, like, this is what the responsibilities of the school department are to make sure family engagement is happening at the Title I schools, right? That's that umbrella piece, and I see you kind of making sure families can understand that. This policy is just making sure we are doing our job of making sure that the engagement's happening. And then at the school level, and this is just my understanding from, like, at the school level, you then have your process of what you're doing to engage families
To
and
do
how
those
you're
things.
engaging your
Yeah.
families. And that's personalized to the school, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
The contact information, here's who you reach, here's what's gonna happen, which is very different than what this kind of
Big
policy is with all the big
So-
language, right?
The way that this
So,
policy calls it is plan. Like, go to line under policy
No, the
expectations
plan
number
is the
2.
CRP.
Yeah.
Okay.
where do you want me to go?
Nowhere, I was wrong apparently.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
because
okay.
But when I read it, when
Yeah.
I read that, I always think of initially, I'm like, oh, no, that's the
They mean the
CRP.
CRP.
They mean the CRP.
Where are we right now?
Then you have to write it in there.
Yeah, you have to write it in
The
there.
it says, sorry, under policy expectations number 2, the districts will involve parent and guardians and family members in the joint development of its district parent/guardian and family engagement plan by reviewing the current plan. The plan will be posted on the district and Title I schools website. So the way that I was
Yeah,
reading
that's going back
that,
to the CRP,
Mm-hmm.
so the
Like-
consolidated
Yeah.
resource plan, which you
The
have to,
consolidated resource plan.
we probably
Why?
should spell
We
it
should
out.
probably
Yeah.
spell that out.
Right.
because
That's what
that
that
to
is.
me does not mean that at all.
The reason is that, the reason its language is like that is that for Rhode Island considers the CRP our plan, but the federal government doesn't consider the CRP our plan. That's just what Rhode Island chooses. So this mirrors a federal law.
Yeah.
And the federal law is plan, RIDE is CRP. Does that make sense?
It does, but
Okay.
this sentence seems to me very specific to not CRP, but to,
There's a component of the CRP where I have to explain our family engagement
Yeah.
practice and policy for all, both.
that makes sense that it would be there, but what this seems to be saying to me is that it is our responsibility as a district who gets Title I funds to involve parent and guardians in creating a plan that is going to engage parent and families at Title I schools. So like, yes, you might have to submit that as part of your CRP, but like number 2 is basically saying to me, like, you have to have like a school plan of how you're gonna engage Quinnesset families, for example. And that every year, parents and guardians need to be involved in the review of that plan. No one else reads it like that? No? Read it again. Seriously? The district will
I guess
involve parents
because
and guardians.
I see what it looks like in this
Yeah.
CRP, that is where you're designating your plan.
Yeah.
That's where it goes into.
So every year, I guess my question is,
So I
do
think,
we involve parents and guardians and family members in jointly developing a plan to engage family and guardians?
yes, through our, like, and part of what we spell out in the policy is through like, evaluation, not evaluations, like
Survey.
thank you, surveys,
Mhm.
through invitations to engage in parent and family engagement teams,
Mhm.
sit teams, through communication with the PTO, through these various mechanisms, we solicit feedback and input from families, and that input we formulate into the CRP in answer to those questions. But, I mean, I think that we could certainly look at the language on the policy expectations, but, I mean.
Do we post that on our website right now?
So.
So if I go
yeah,
to Quinn's
so-
website?
Right, so, I mean, I think right now, we post on the school website information, both school websites, the information about Title I what it is,
Mhm.
how we're using it at the school, and then the parent and family engagement policy, which, lowercase p, so it, if, I think your concern might say, you know, we could amend that second sentence on, under policy expectations, the district will involve parents and guardian and family members in joint development of district parent family engagement plan by reviewing the current plan. And we can take out the plan will be posted, because we don't post the CRP, that's correct.
Did we write this sentence, I guess is my question, because my understanding was that this is a model policy from the state, so
No,
it's,
this is not,
we made this one up completely ourselves?
a long time ago.
It's 2017.
Yeah, okay, so this,
So
Wait,
And
Did
in
you-
2017,
There is, you have-
we updated it from, it was written in 2008.
So the Title I Parent and Family Engagement Policy that's on the website at QUID is not actually this policy, it's the
It-
little p policy,
yes,
which is
correct.
not a policy, it's a procedure, or should not be a policy.
We used the word policy because that's what we were told to
Yeah,
use by RIDE.
understood.
Okay.
Yeah.
where's the ride?
So under RIDE, they
Yeah.
have school-wide program, they have it.
You're doing exactly what I'm doing. I'm like, let's go backwards.
It's in here of what you have to.
Your
There's
job's
all
fun,
sorts
Lydia.
of, so for example, we have to talk about how we have a homeschool compact, we have to talk about our annual Title I meeting, we have to talk about family engagement policy, about the family's right to know qualifications of the teachers and TAs in the building. We have to talk about, I mean, these are all the things we're supposed to say, how we do
It's also
these
in
various things.
Excel grants in the CRP, because I.
Right, yeah,
too,
yeah,
I was looking
yeah,
at the
yeah.
section, we had to write up about what.
Right,
we-
exactly, and that's what we do, and that's how this is modeled. It's not pretty, but it meets the requirement, because it's like, we need to do this, this is what we do, we need to do this, this is what we do.
Okay, so you're asking in the short term that we approve this the way that it is.
With
while-
the updates to say parent guardians, to change to how, to the schools that
MTTS.
receive Title I funding and so forth. And then we will work on trying to have a more family-friendly district policy that will mirror the more family-friendly school-based policy.
Can someone show me where the language for the school-based policy is on the RIDE website? That's the part I need to read up on, because I don't understand.
I just have it, just close it out. So when you go to Title I, if you just go Title I policy, right,
Yeah, I'm there.
and then go down to,
Can you drop that into the resource, either?
Do you want me to do it?
Can
I
you drop
there's
a
two
link to that?
You could also tweak the purpose to make clear, I think clearer, that this is like the overarching, this is what we need to do, but there's a more parent-friendly version
Yeah,
at the local school level.
Okay.
Because it doesn't,
It does not, it
Yeah.
does not say that.
no, it doesn't, and I can
Yeah.
understand what everyone's saying, but
Yeah.
when you read this, this is,
It's,
Okay, so we're not
it's
gonna,
like a
so,
headache, but it may be what we need to
Oh, that's
comply
fine.
with the law, so
Right.
fine,
Yeah.
but we should kinda say
Feels
that.
how my
Hey,
brain
hey,
feels
listen,
right
this-
now.
This is a bunch of
hey,
lawyer
look
stuff.
over here, yes,
Sorry.
But if you really wanna know what's going on, go see.
Ken and I were just navigating on his computer, like where we were trying to get, and he hit the button that we need, and it just did a 404 page not found, and I said, that's literally how my brain feels about this.
Here,
Like-
I'll put this.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could drop it in, just because I know that you are an expert in your area, I just wanna, I don't like working on things I don't have a full understanding of, so I just wanna read about it,
This
yeah.
is a document that I did not write.
Oh, yeah,
But I've been, just
Yeah.
wanted to
Oh,
get
I
it
get
up to
it.
date, and I've never liked it, so, I mean,
no, so
but
we
it-
can,
but it
we can
does-
absolutely
it does sort of,
make a motion to move it forward, and then, but we've done it before, where we've literally said, we're moving this forward today to update this, and then it is immediately
Yeah,
going back on the docket
Yeah,
for
yeah,
a deeper
yeah.
dive, so
And
that
that's-
sounds like what we need to do
and,
here.
and we're kind of all working on it for this, so, but what I'm hearing is we wanted it to look, just like they currently look similar, but in a non-family friendly way, we want to make them continue to look similar in a family friendly way.
yes.
And we'll put it on that'll be.
I don't like things being in two different
I,
places
how do I,
either.
Yeah.
how do I put it, if I have I know what I do, never mind.
The one thing that I would like to request though is that where they're talking about, blah, 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 ensure, so D where it says ensure that information is, interpreters are available, there was a phrase in one of the other ones that said, to the extent practical provides opportunities, including parent parents and family members with limited English proficiency. I dropped it
Yeah.
down at the bottom of the document.
Yeah.
I'd like to swap out the language because it's also, talking about family members with disabilities and parents and family members of migratory students.
Yep.
It just expands the, options that we're making information available to, and I'd like to swap that language out. while
The italicized part at the bottom,
Yeah,
so you want
so
Lydia's feedback on that, that's new, right, you pulled
Yeah,
that in
that's
from
new.
something else?
right now, we're just saying that, we will provide interpreters available when needed. But this paragraph here is just going a step further, and we're referencing, that we'll make sure that we're getting information to family members with disabilities.
That seems appropriate.
Where do you wanna put that in, Jen?
I'd swap it out
For what
Just
one?
swap it out for the part.
in D.
Oh, I see.
Or
But D
add-
has more than that,
add-
yeah,
add
that's
it
where I
to-
was
yeah,
confused,
add
like,
it,
just
yep.
swap it out for that last
Yes,
two sentence, right, because we also want information to be provided in a family friendly, jargon-free manner.
I'll add it.
I'm going to the document library of the CRP, and I know there's
Mhm.
stuff there, but it's not on one side.
Oh, I'm just gonna email it to you, Jen, cause I can't.
Yeah, just send it to Jen
Yeah.
and then she can upload
I'll
it.
drop it in, yeah.
To be honest, that's what a lot of us do, including Andrew, because he doesn't like Google.
It's long, it's not just about parent and family engagement, you have to
That's okay.
scroll down, but. And there's like exceptions, but like, it's hard for us to do an exception when we don't, like, if we had two quidnessets, if like both were very similar, it would be easier to follow that exception. But I don't think it.
Sorry, you lost me, what do you mean?
Like, hold on, I can't think and attach at the same time. If we were like a one school district, we wouldn't necessarily need like a separate district and school policy because we're a one school district, for example. That's where they talk about exceptions for not having to have a school-based policy. It would be things like that, like where there's no difference. Okay, I'm sending this to you.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to move this forward to the school committee with the modifications that are outlined today and the ones that we discussed as well.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, the other one was a new policy for, McKinney-Vento. There's a, draft policy in here. Robert, Lydia, do you wanna talk about what this policy is?
So, McKinney-Vento, those of you who don't know, it's for homeless education. RIDE has said that we're required to have a policy. When I learned that, I drafted one up. They subsequently after I drafted it, they sent a template, of course. But I don't.
How, was yours better or was theirs better?
But I kinda like mine better, but, once you've done something, you kinda, but both are in this, shared
Oh, gotcha.
thing. Some of the stuff, I think their sample policy, was a little, they thought you should define what enroll and enrollment means, and I don't know that you need to define what enroll means, but if you guys felt that was necessary, so they're both in there. It basically is that we're following the law. That's basically what I tried to do was articulate, and I tried to follow a format that to me read similar to the way that the other school department policy, somebody asked where the asterisk goes, and that probably is because of a cut and paste error, so I don't.
Okay, that was
see
me.
it.
I was looking for it. I'm like,
I
I can't find it.
No, it doesn't.
I
Yeah,
thought I was like,
tried
it's some
to-
secret
I
definition
tried
for
to borrow
hospitals.
bits and pieces
Okay.
from different places, that I thought would help articulate like both what we are required to cover and how we organize it here. If there are questions or there are some highlighted things, I don't know. if
That's
there-
me. I couldn't comment because you gave us all edit access.
Oh,
so
I
like,
did?
yeah, so you can't
Oh.
comment when there is that. So
Oh,
thank
if you have, you have to be non-edit.
Yes, you have to be
Oh,
non-edited
I
to do
thought you had to
comment.
be
That's not true.
edit.
I couldn't. It
I'll
wouldn't
show
let
you
me
how.
insert a
I'll show you
comment.
how later.
Oh, I thought you would wanna be able to fool, I thought you would wanna be able to fool around with it, so I gave you edit.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
can
I
do,
thought
we
it
can
was
do both, you
really
just have to do it in a different way.
Okay.
So thank you
Yeah.
for this. And I know homeless is the legal term, but it bothers me like to continue to like use that phrase throughout the policy. So I didn't know if there was a way that we could like just add something like just.
I'd
on
have
how
to
is the-
check, cause I know that there's specific things
Housing
about,
instability.
like I've often, when I'm talking to families, I use the word displaced,
Well,
but I would just have to check.
If
to
we
make
legally
sure
are
that-
not
I know.
allowed to, then we should just, we could put it in our
that's what I
philosophy.
want to put something in our
Yeah.
philosophy. Yeah, like I know we can't change the term in the.
Andrew's not.
We
gonna
might
do
be
it.
able
but-
to.
yeah, I'd
Yeah.
like to.
I just don't, what?
I'd like us to reference
Okay.
it by saying
Like I know that,
we-
like, for example, not meaning to talk about the last policy, but I had asked that, right, I said, well, can we just make it a family? Do we have to say parent /
Yeah.
family? And they said, yes, you
Yeah.
have to have parent.
Yeah.
We can't take out the word
Right.
parent. So like, I don't know I don't know the answer in terms of
Yeah.
McKinney, but,
We can't, like, we have to leave homeless, but we can put something.
Yeah,
in
you
the
can add
philosophy.
something.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's my
I
request
think you
there.
have to keep that.
My other comment was.
is that something that you guys will do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jen will take what you have very nicely provided and the example, and probably my guess is merge and mess around, like, you'll probably create a next version for us,
Yeah.
probably.
There's some
based on-
pretty big typos in the ride version.
Yeah, oh, that doesn't surprise me. My other question was, so it talks about school personnel providing services under the subtitle shall receive annual professional development opportunities in the form of print information, virtual and in-person workshops related to the individual and support of displaced children and youth. Is that happening
Yeah.
to all staff?
So, okay, so
That was a really strong, yeah, I was really
So
optimistic.
the North Dakota, so we do not meet the requirement of providing the professional development to all staff, because basically I can't force myself onto people.
Okay.
But even though I try, let me tell you, I
Sure
try.
you do.
There's something
But like
crazy
I get,
happening.
I get the professional development, and am very diligent about doing all the professional development that I'm required to do, and then I send out, I am supposed to be on the agenda, do have a workshop for like this March, and then I do a lot of outreach, so I create, like I have like information for, like a slideshow, like where I'll send updated information to the social workers and guidance counselors and the principals and stuff, and I can come and talk to your staff, but no principal ever has time for me to come and talk to their staff. But I do it like this, as opposed to like this, if that makes sense, so.
It does.
And we have information on our website about, like if you went to our website and like put in the search tool homeless, you would see like I have a homeless services page that has information about what McKinney-Vento is, and resources and
Okay.
and in that way, it, I think, helps, again, communicate information.
Okay, my other question was under, thank you for that, Lydia, I know that you are so passionate about
And like
what
all
you
the
do.
buildings have like information at the offices.
Yep.
I
Because
needed-
PD comes in a lot of different
Yeah,
ways
yeah,
too,
yeah.
like having, so I think that's like Rob and you all can circle up on what that might look like in the
Yeah.
future, so that's
And every time we
noted.
have a new,
Yeah.
so like like when we have a new social worker or a principal
Sure.
or a psychologist, I reach out to them, make sure that they know if they have any questions, so I do it in a piecemeal sort of way.
Okay, under the, definitions where B includes, 1, 2, 3, and 4, I noticed under the ride model policy, unaccompanied youth was part of those definitions, and because it's not in this, it kind of fell out of like the way it's being referred to. Is there a reason why you separated it?
I think of the samples that I looked at the time did have them separated. And usually the way that unaccompanied homeless youth or unaccompanied youth, are defined as those who meet the criteria above, but who are not with the parent or guardian.
Okay.
So that can be tweaked a little bit if, it's, I wouldn't consider it a subset of the definition of homelessness because, it's a separate kind of category. It's children who are not living with the parent or guardian.
Are they excluded from any provisions of this policy?
No.
Okay, so that's what, like, under like B
Yeah.
notice, that they're not listed in here.
So
Like
they should be
advocates
in there.
working with homeless families, parents and guardians of homeless children and youth, and homeless children and youth, but it's not listed, unaccompanied youth is not listed here. So that's why I wanted to make sure, we just need to make sure that they are included everywhere that we're talking about.
Okay, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
So, so
okay,
that's
that's
fine.
fine. Do you
Okay.
want to, will you move that or?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I just
yeah.
wanted to make sure that they,
Yeah, yeah.
that there was, like, that they weren't pulled out because they were
No,
meant to
they're
be
usually
excluded.
referenced separately,
I bet it's
but
close.
not, but,
You know what I mean?
but I
Thinking
see what
about-
you're saying about the order.
It's not, I know
Like,
it's
yeah,
not.
but
but
they-
you want
it's
to
not
push it
federal
up.
level.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so everything, it
was a-
applies
it
to
was
all of
Yeah,
them.
correct.
Okay, we have a meeting at 6, so I wanna do,
Yeah.
I'm not like trying to rush, I am rushing you because we have a meeting at 6, but so is there anything like that we need to cover about this now, or do we want to do a quick check of the other, like I'll do a check of the other one and this one, I'll send it back out to you two to review, and then we can discuss it at the next meeting?
Are you okay with that?
Correct, yes, I am, but the first one, we are gonna move forward for
Yes.
like a approval, but
Yes.
then later to look back
Yes.
at it.
Yeah,
yes.
so that one's going to the school committee for the
Yep.
next agenda.
Yep, yeah,
And
that
then
makes
we'll do
sense.
it, we'll
But
do
the-
a draft of this one for the next one,
Mhm.
the next policy meeting.
Absolutely,
Yes, okay.
yep, thank you.
Yes.
Who's the
Um,
we in this story? You.
The
You're not,
we-
you're not asking Rob to do it,
No,
you're
the
gonna
we
edit
is
that
me
one.
for this,
Yeah.
yes.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Uh,
and
Are there
then
any
we have
more
to discuss,
questions?
no, are there any
No,
more questions?
no.
Oh,
Well,
Probably
I
not
just
right
wanna-
now, well, like as we're working through, we might have some that we'll have to circle back with you on,
Okay.
but I think right now, we have a good understanding
Yep.
of what needs to go in this policy, and then we can kind of just
Yeah.
double check.
And once I merge, once I look at the two, I'll send it to you and Rob to review, you two can make sure it's right, and then I'll come back here for the next meeting,
Mhm.
which is scheduled for the 9th. Rob has a
10th.
conflict.
10th.
10.
Yep.
10.
The 9th is a,
Ninth is
Scheduled for the
Monday,
10th.
week to the
Yeah.
Tuesday.
we
Rob-
moved it from Monday to Tuesday,
Yeah. Rob has a conflict.
yeah,
I am unavailable, so.
December 9th?
December 10th.
It's December
Why is it on a Tuesday? Are we, was it
Because there's a,
Tuesday?
there's
No,
a,
I guess
there's
we
a,
had
moved it
moved
Okay.
the last,
So it cannot be on the 10th either.
So neither of you are available, so we cannot have it on the
Correct.
10th. Okay. I mean, we're making assumptions about the second, what will happen December 2nd as well.
We are.
So, what do you have a different date? I would just pick a different date, because,
Not in December, you're gonna have to take care of it in December.
oh, that's fine. Okay, so, do you have a different date that you wanna meet? Do you wanna meet that week? We can meet after building advisory and just be miserable. Cause building's from 4:30 to 5:30. What's your Wednesday? We can do this offline, we don't have to do this on camera.
Okay.
We will find a different date.
okay, I just wanna quickly, I wanna,
Yeah.
I just wanna say thank you to Lydia
Yeah,
for,
thank you,
for,
Lydia.
for coming tonight and for,
All
your
the
work
good
on
work you
this.
do.
Yes.
Yep.
That's great.
It's good. Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We
Okay,
appreciate it.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
It's the me and Rob show today. with
Yeah,
motions.
hey, we're doing it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.